All right, now at this stage in the argument, I want to pause and look at some abstract apparatus, right, as these arguments have developed. So far, each side has said something about ethics, it has said something about business and economics, and it has said something about politics. And a thorough case analysis always involves analyzing the relationships of all of the parties in terms of their ethical rights and responsibilities to themselves and to each other, the business and economic facts on the ground, and certainly in cases where there's a question about government involvement, a political philosophy has to be brought to bear on the particular case. So what I want to do is note in each case what ethics, economics, and political positions are being asserted by the two sides here. This position here is saying that ethically we should treat adults as self-responsible individuals. Right, that it's up to us to make our own way in the world and to treat other people as having the same responsibilities and to interact with them on a voluntary basis. And the ethical position that emphasizes people's moral responsibility to be self-responsible and to interact socially with other people on a voluntary basis, that then is the position of egoism. This position is also making assertions about how free markets work, right? If we have voluntary trade in the market, people aren't always going to make ideal transactions, but they will, in a free market, make mutually beneficial transactions. So this position is asserting that a free market leads to win-win results. And so what we have here is an advocacy of, right, free market capitalism, right, with respect to labor. And then finally, right, with respect to government, right, we have a political position that's being argued here, and that is that the government is not to manage the economy. It is to use its powers only in cases where there are clear violations of rights or threats to people's rights. Otherwise, it should advocate a hands-off position here. And so the free market capitalist economic position is working hand in hand with a notion of limited government power or limited government involvement. So here we have an ethics position working with an economics position, right, working with a politics position. And the same thing holds on the other side of the debate here. What we have is a position that says we have a bad result that comes out of the free market. Employers are using their greater power to the disadvantage of employees, and employees are being victimized, right, or exploited by the stronger employers. And that position then is to say, and this is as an accusation, that what the free market embodies is ethically predation. It's not self-responsible individuals working out mutually beneficial positions. It's not egoism. Rather, the free market is a matter of predation. We have an economics position, right, about the business facts on the ground that's being argued here, that what we have on the supply side is people with less bargaining power, less experience, less everything. These are the weaker party, and on the other side of the equation, we have a stronger party with more bargaining power and so forth. And so what we have here is an argument about asymmetrical power in the marketplace, and that's taken to be the defining factor. And so we have an ethics claim that comes out of a judgment call about how the dynamics in a free market works out negatively. We also then have an explicit position with respect to politics here. We labeled it paternalism, but we do have a politics that disagrees with a more limited conception of government here. Instead, we have a position that is interventionist. The job of the government is to intervene, right, in the economy, to manage the economy in some respects, and particularly in cases where we don't get desirable results according to free market dynamics here. So the first point then, with respect to the apparatus for developing business ethics cases to make sure that when you're analyzing the arguments, all of the issues are being covered, is to make sure that the ethical principles at debate are being put out on the table, that the debates over the economic and business facts on the ground are put out, and that the differences over political solutions or political involvement is also being put on the ground. So the minimum wage case so far then is a three-dimensional debate. We have a debate over whether the employment market in a free market is a matter of egoism or a matter of predation. We have a debate over whether free markets typically lead to mutually beneficial win-win results or whether free markets lead to win-lose results. And we have a debate over whether we should have a more minimal conception of government involvement limited to protecting rights, or a more expansive conception about how governments should use their power. One more piece of ethics terminology we can add in here. The criticism here was that the free market led to a win-lose result. One party gained, the other party lost. But we could point out that when we propose a minimum wage as a solution, we also end up with a win-lose transaction. Employees win, employers lose. Well, why is this win-lose transaction bad, right, while this win-lose transaction is good? Both of them are zero-sum. And the position on this side says, well, the key difference here is that in a free market, what happens is the stronger sacrifices the weaker party. That's what exploitation is about. But with this solution here, it is the stronger party that is losing, and it is the weaker party that is gaining. And so there is an ethics position that says, ethically speaking, the stronger, the richer, the more powerful have an obligation to sacrifice, if necessary, for the weaker, the poorer, and so forth. And so what we have here is a political solution that is requiring sacrifices of the stronger party, but that's ethically okay according to the ethics of altruism. Predation says the strong will sacrifice the weak. Altruism says it should be the stronger who are sacrificing themselves for the weaker. And so what we have is a politically enforced altruism. And so we then have the three-way ethics debate. Should we think of it in terms of altruism, predation, right, or egoism?